The Storm Wraiths are a chapter of loyalist space marines hailing from the American sector of the Segmentum Tempestus that were, until fairly recently, of both an unknown founding and of uncertain descendancy. Known for their shock and awe strategies, the Storm Wraiths have been reported to currently host among the largest collections of Heresy-era weaponry, armor, and relics among any Space Marine chapter, adding to the undiluted shock their more sentient enemies find themselves feeling. To them, it is as if the legions have returned from the pages of the history books. As would be expected due to its prolificacy amongst the ranks of the Space Marine chapters, the Storm Wraiths are confirmed to bear the gene seed of Robute Guilliman, and are thus successors of the Ultramarines. Despite their genetic legacy, however, before 999 M41, much of the history and the records of the Storm Wraiths were scrambled and lost due to bureaucratic error within the Ordo Astartes branches of the Departamento Munitorum. However, records from other factions of the Imperium indicate that the chapter has been in service since at the latest M33, indicating a potential fifth founding heritage, with some theorizing even earlier, due to their substantial usage of weapons and armament from the dark days of the Horus Heresy. As of recent developments, however, these speculations have been proven to be almost entirely correct. In 023 M42, the reawakened Primarch of the Ultramarines, Robute Guilliman, dispatched a communique to all primogenitors, the Ultramarine successor chapters established during the second founding and recorded in the Apocrypha of Scaras. Many will note that 8 chapters listed in the Apocrypha have been lost to time. However, when the communique was sent out, included in this list were the Storm Wraiths. Many within the Departamento Munitorum believed it had been a clerical error on their part, only for the Lord Commander to confirm that the Storm Wraiths were indeed among the primogenitors. This now makes some sense, as despite their great distance from the other primogenitors when they have encountered one another, for example in service to the Death Watch, they have shown a shaky but loyal kinship to one another. Their unofficial reintroduction to the roster of the primogenitors, however, was not met with roaring fanfare and great celebration, as both the primogenitors and the Storm Wraiths themselves cared little for the formalities, seeing as they already considered themselves brother chapters despite some differences amongst chapter demeanors and philosophies. While most of the primogenitors are found within the 500 realms of Ultramar, the Storm Wraiths' disconnect from their brothers is deepened by the significant distance between their homeworld and the Ultramar sector. Deep in the American sector lies their homeworld of Abnoba Secundus, a large and climatically temperate but heavily forested moon in orbit around the appropriately named gas giant of Abnoba Prime. Notably, a large portion of the topography of Abnoba Secundus bears much resemblance to archived picts of the Dark Angel's homeworld of Caliban. Large forests cover a great deal of the moon, only to be broken by small seas of liquid water, equatorial grasslands, and ice-capped poles. Several mountain ranges also dot the planet's topography, breaking through the common and thin mists of the highland regions of the moon. The inhabitant population is feudal, with several miniature fiefdoms established across the satellite. As occurs with most Astartes homeworlds that are also of a feudal classification, the chapter maintains a heavy veil of secrecy from the general population, though records indicate that stories of the Great Lords of Storm date back since the 36th millennium, and most, if not all lords of the various fiefdoms have sworn allegiance to the chapter, and by extension the Emperor. The chapter's selection of aspirants is hardly elaborate, as any child of the proper age to be inducted into the Astartes, be they urchin or noble son, are inducted through a trial known as the Trail of Thunder. Brought before a massive forest known by the translated High Gothic name of the Sylvana Spectrae, aspirants must make a perilous journey, only armed with basic armor, wooden shields and iron weaponry down a worn and beguiled trail that is often beset by wargs and other large arboreal predators. Most aspirants will face the trail alone. However, some will brave the path with their families, though most of that ilk who reach the chapter's monastery are either turned away or are instead added to the ranks of the chapter's serfs, though exceptions have occurred on occasion upon request of either the chapter master, reclusiarch, or chief librarian. The trail takes several days to successfully navigate even among the best trackers of the population, which is complicated further by the large variety of dangerous flora that makes for foraging and hunting in those days rather difficult, if not rather perilous. Upon reaching the end of the trail, future neophytes are met with the view of the chapter's fortress monastery, known as the Sepulchrum Tempesta. It is a massive fortress carved into the side of a spire of the sun, the peak of the longest mountain range on Abnoba Secundus. From there, aspirants must climb and clamber through the largest natural feature of the sepulchrum, the 450-meter sheer cliffside beneath a massive waterfall that flows out from beneath the spire by the way of natural ice flows from further up the mountain range. Many perish slipping on the wet stone and falling to the earth below as they climb up, though their bodies are not left for the carrion birds, as would be expected amongst most chapters. However, those that do reach the summit are met by an alcove 20 feet below the main opening, leading into the fortress. Here they are met by the High Reclusiarch himself, who inspects them and brings them in to begin the process of turning them into future battle brothers. The Storm Wraiths are known for bearing an unusually delightful demeanor into battle, much to the err of some, the surprise of others, and the delight of the few who may call them allies. Despite their harrowing title and war paint, namely the bleach-bone white faceplates on their dark grey helmets, many are known to be somewhat jovial, though of course this can vary heavily depending on the battle brother. Gallows humour and rather playful ribbing has been reported by Ordo Astartes agents serving in the field with the Storm Wraiths, including with Imperial Guardsmen and members of the Inquisition. This can be seen within their chapter's core beliefs, as while they will put the lives of the Imperial Guard and common men and women before themselves, they do not fear death or even lament it. Rather, they see it as the ending of one's great saga in the Emperor's service and joining his side in the halls of the dead. As such, while some brothers will lament their losses in private, it's fairly customary that in the aftermath of a victorious battle, a celebration will be held in honor of the dead whose sacrifice was the cost for their victory. Whether on the level of a squad, a company, or, in especially rare cases, the entire chapter, the lives of the deceased are told with all manner of both sorrow and joy. In the instances where the Storm Wraiths have acted alongside members of the Inquisition, the Imperial Guard or other Astartes chapters, their other associated parties are extended an invitation to partake in the festivities. As such, they have developed a formal kinship with several chapters, namely the Space Wolves, Crimson Fists, interestingly enough, White Scars, and two of their fellow primogenitors, the Patriarchs of Ulixes and the Libators. However, in the event of a significant defeat, the chapter will forfeit their celebrations and will instead redirect what sorrows or anger they may have developed into some measure of counterattack or defensive strategy, depending on the needs of the campaign they are assigned to. Truly, a holdover from their lineage to Robuti Gilliman, as well as an act of respect and vengeance for their brothers. In the event that a chapter master, captain, or even a simple battle brother can be saved, as despite their beliefs, they will not idly sit by if a battle brother or fellow Imperial is bleeding out, there is little hesitation to enter them into the venerated chassis of a dreadnought should one be available. While most would expect them to hate such a thing as a dreadnought, most venerate them just as all other chapters do, with several dreadnoughts dating back over a millennia or more. Inquisitorial assets have even reported sightings of a Stormwraith-marked Contemptor dreadnought, though recent revelations would not put such an idea in the realm of impossibility. The chapter follows the Codex Astartes fairly closely, though perhaps a bit more liberally than their brother primogenitors. While chapter organization is compliant to the Codex, company coloration is mildly varied. As the chapter's shoulder pauldrons are already a pure white, the first company instead opts for pure gold pauldrons, Cruxis Terminatus notwithstanding. Also, while heavier armament and weaponry are aplenty within the chapter's arsenal, they have yet to receive Centurions. This is somewhat odd, as they currently own several Stormraven gunships within their arsenal, as escorts for their chapter master's venerated Storm Eagle transport, Thunderstrike. Before 999 M41, chapter numbers were down by about 200 due to their assistance in several campaigns, including the defense of the Cadian Gate against Abaddon's 13th Black Crusade, and the reclamation of the Sabbat worlds. However, as of 100 M42, the chapter is back to nearly full strength due to the introduction of Primaris Space Marines into the chapter's ranks. As for the chapter's tactics, they are an unusual lot for Sons of Guilliman. Perhaps taking inspiration from their Primarch's lack of hesitance to lead from the front in the battle, they are a chapter based in Alpha Strike tactics, with vehicular support protecting their spearhead from farther back, with the main tactical squads acting as a defensive line for their vehicles and as a means to secure objectives and hold them for dear life. The actual spearhead of their forces are often consisted of Vanguard veterans that will descend from high-orbiting Thunderhawks to deal with large targets such as vehicles or monstrous opponents, drop pods carrying veteran teams to key positions, and sniper scouts whom focus on the elimination of enemy commanders. And if the chapter is simply in the need of a tough gun line to drop into the center of the enemy's forces, to draw their attention or to rip them to shreds, they will then call for their Terminator forces. However, as expected from a chapter that mainly relies on Heresy-era weapons and armor, the venerated brothers of the First Company descend from on high in the venerated Tartarus tactical dreadnought armor almost exclusively. 3 whole squads of the First Company are armored in the ancient armor, more than any other chapter on record aside from the Angel's Revenant. Such a collection is highly coveted amongst some chapters, with records indicating that only one exchange has ever occurred in regards to acquisition of these suits. A trade between Chapter Master Gabriel Angelos of the Blood Ravens and the current Stormwraiths Chapter Master Reinhard Ancelius, though the item received for the armor is up to debate. Coincidentally, the Chapter Master has recently taken to using a pair of antique Baroque lightning claws, adorned in the livery of the 13th Legion.